Please note, Lenny, that the notification of posting was at all the buildings and in the paper and on our website, and that all 5 board members are in attendance. Next, we'll start with the consent agenda. Review the board minute meetings and executive session meetings from February 23rd and the special board meeting from March 2nd. Any comments? Nothing? All right, then we will move to the February treasurer's report.
As of February 28th, our associated bank total was $9,678,283.24. And at this point in the calendar year, we are 45% through our budget.
Which is very good because we have, what, about 60% of the year in already? 2/3 of the year.
And last year, this time, we were at 54%. So, doing very well.
All right, next, confirm April committee meetings and school board meetings.
The suggestion has been that we have committee meetings on April 13th, which is the first Monday back from spring break. Mr. Schwartz and I have a WSEC meeting on the 14th at the high school that evening, and then I believe the board has some special meetings on the 15th and 16th for superintendent search. And then the regular monthly board meeting will be April 20th. And if I recall correctly, there's also a special board meeting scheduled for April 27th as well. Mr. Hoffman indicated he'll be out of town on the 13th.
So on the 13th. I'm sure he'll send us pictures of him sitting by the pool or something.
Yes.
All righty.
On the 20th, our start time is 6:30.
Yes.
I'd be fine with that. Or did you want to go at 6?
No,
You
6:30.
want to go at 6:30?
That's not a regular board meeting usually starts.
Okay, just wanted
The
to make
reason we
sure.
started at 6 tonight was just for the transportation, so we had guidance for the busing. All righty.
Mr. Johnson, is that okay?
Works for me.
Thank you.
So 13th and 20th?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Next, we go to information items, administrators report. Chris.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our March meeting. First off, a couple of congratulations to several individuals. Sandy Asmussen and Matthew Hoppy, as well as the administrator out of Drought, Carrie, and then the Topper Food Service for really coordinating a nice February service day on February 27th. Went very smoothly. I want to thank our music teachers for preparing our kids for the solo ensemble competitions that they had a few weeks ago. We're in West Scotia, and at the choir concert last weekend, Mrs. Cool actually had a couple of those youngsters that were in solo ensemble perform before the actual concert began, so that was really nice to see that. I want to thank the members of the summative subcommittee for their work, and then after the presentation at the committee last week, we had a regular monthly meeting with the subcommittee, and they already outlined some steps they want to take as a committee as a follow-up to their presentation to you. So that was very encouraging. And last, I just want to thank Mr. Foster, who's the principal at the high school. He's worked very collaboratively with Mrs. Mark and Mrs. Hoppy and myself the last couple of weeks with some curriculum articulations and some real good collaboration between the two districts that futuristically I think will be really, really helpful for both districts and really foster some good relationships with the staff. The only other thing before I pass the microphone off to Mrs. Hoppy this evening is first notice of some policy updates. Policy 112.1 related to strategic planning. Policy 453.1 emergency nursing services revisions. 522.5 staff involvement in political activities is a new policy. As is 522.7 and 522.71 related to staff technology use and use of social media. Health examinations, 523.1, that's related to staff. 528, student staff relations is a new policy, somewhat ties back to 522.7. Clarification of vacation and revision of vacation policy, 532.3. Substitute teacher policy, slight revision there, 534. 535.112 is a new policy related to break time for nurses and others. 536.2 is an update regarding employee discharge. Policy 548 is a revision regarding educational support staff evaluation, as is 549, also related to support staff supervision. Policy 731.2, privacy in the locker room, restrooms, and changing areas is a new policy. And then policy 815, which is related to parent-teacher organization. So those are first readings this evening. And then for second readings, which will be coming for action early on in the agenda in just a few moments, the update to the student attendance policy and related procedures, and that will be effective with next school year. And then the food allergy management case, 453.2, communicable diseases, 453.3, school medication policy, 453.4, employee conflicts of interest, 522.4, which is a new policy related to gifts to and from employees, that's 524. Sales and solicitations by employees, and then an update to the fund balance policy, which is 664. One piece I want to clarify, and this is related to the food allergy piece. There's a comment that says an input last month about training staff with the EpiPen piece, and that has been done, and that is done, and it's done through basically everyone took an online training for that. So the whole staff has had that EpiPen training. And then there's more intense training if there are youngsters actually in the classrooms listening to teachers. So with that, that concludes my report, and I'll pass it off to Mrs. Hoppy.
A couple of things. One, what they said at the chorus concert last week was everybody that went either scored a 1 or a 2, and it goes from 1 to 5, so kudos to the teachers there. And if the people weren't there, it was, I believe, the first time that we used our new sound system. And it sounded a lot better than you.
Significant difference, right?
So,
good.
Yeah.
Chris, top of staff use of social media, you need to remove the Web 2.0 like we did.
Okay.
Second paragraph,
Okay.
to say internet tools.
Thanks for catching that.
Anything else for Chris?
All righty, I just want to acknowledge that Jen Blue will be attending the State Early Childhood Conference, so I thank her for that. She's going to be leaving tomorrow. She'll be gone Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so she'll be networking with other people as well as attending specific trainings for us and gathering some more resources. Appreciate the principals, just want to acknowledge them. Last Wednesday, they worked with their teams on their own regarding formative assessment, what they learned with our consultant, Jamie Pollock, and they worked together to present some things and prepare some things to use with the rest of the staff. Currently, we have 5 people who are working on the assessment calendar. We did this last year to try to use Google as an online assessment calendar for good communication. And Kim Sykes, Sarah Shepke, Mike Rosendich, Ron Freeze, and Jane Egger is joining that team this year. But they'll put together the assessment calendar and make sure all the details are in there. So when people want to know who should be doing what or what schools for sub-use and those kinds of things, it's all in the assessment calendar. And then I wanted to thank from the Climate and Wellness team, Susie Schuyler, who is leading the subgroup on the website and how we can improve our communication and our PR with regard to our website. So she'll continue to do that, and she did get an outside critique through somebody she knew from the chamber to give us some feedback on the website. So we'll be moving ahead on that. And Belinda Hackstein has been working with some concerns and questions and things about pupil service in the climate and wellness, and so those things then are being given to the pupil service team to respond to and to try to work with and come back to the climate and wellness. So I'll be sharing those out via email in a few days when I gather the rest of the material for that to all staff. And then the last thing in the climate and wellness, one thing that the staff would like to have is some vending machines some liquid vending machines, soda pop, water, juice, those kinds of things in the buildings. And so Mr. Yoke and I, when we met with Tom last time, we thought that that might be a way that they could bring some additional revenue to their program. Keeping the money and all of that in the food service area to make sure that we're following those policies and still have a benefit for the staff when they leave, so that they don't always have to bring it from outside the building. Any questions on that?
Just a comment. I'm all in favor of vending machines. I think it's a great idea, especially for the people working here, something easy and quick to grab if they need to. I just want to point out that that's possible only because we're currently not in the USDA program. So if we were, we would have no capability of any kind of vended item other than possibly water. And a really bad tasting vanilla snack of some sort. So, just to let you know, that's one great advantage of not being in that system right now, so.
That's right.
Capability of our hospital.
And partnering with Tom is a good idea too.
Exactly.
Yeah, if I could interject real quick while we're talking about that subject, are we gonna have any reports or see any information on how that is progressing, now that we've made the switch and where we're at, just overall money lines and participation and those kind of figures?
Sure.
You're talking about the food service?
Yeah,
food service,
okay.
since the change. We talked, was it 2 weeks ago they were here? Yeah, we met with them 2 weeks ago. They're lagging behind a little bit as far as revenue because the cost of food went up unexpectedly. That's evening off. And so he is going to come back to us in May or early June to project and recommend student prices for next year and have a more thorough update as far as how it's going.
Okay, great.
The nice thing I would tell you though is that the a la carte items that Fox River's been trying this year, the participation rate and the revenue have really, really jumped up, which is nice. And then they also asked Mrs. Hoppy and I if they could try a couple of a la carte items here in the elementary buildings and actually expand a couple of offerings at Fox River. And we were all receptive to it because it helps kids and families. And like Mr. Justin just said, we don't have the we're able to work outside the restrictions and try to, so.
Okay, super.
Okay.
Any other questions? Jake?
Good evening. I would first like to share with you my work with our new hires in this past month. I've held or will be holding a workshop with the three groups of teachers this month, and we are working on formative assessment and effective feedback to students. We are working on classroom environment and climate, and then the teachers had asked to have some training on Google Classroom, and so I would like to thank Sarah Shakti who came in and is still coming into the workshops this month and working with the teachers on how to set up and use Google Classroom in their rooms. I'm also this month and probably into April, I'm working on videotaping all of our new hires, teaching for the purpose of their own self-reflection. I'd like to thank everyone in the tech department, so Cannon, Sarah, Kathy, and Jeremy. They all had a hand in helping me get this off and running. They borrowed me a device so I could videotape the teachers. They've figured out a way for me to share it with them in the most effective way. And it's been wonderful, the feedback I've gotten from some of the new teachers on the videotaping of them in the classroom. So on a side note, I'm encouraging teachers they can keep their video if they want and the reflection because it works really well with educator effectiveness and as an artifact, especially in Domain 4. So there's a domain there for a reflecting on teaching. And then finally, I want to thank Kim Kleppel and the principals for working with me to revise and update the attendance policy. Pending your approval of it tonight, Kim and I are going to work the remainder of the school year with the principals to update the student handbooks so that they reflect the new policy and procedures, as well as work to train and educate secretaries, staff, students, parents, and as well as local health care providers on the new policy and procedures so that next year we're ready to go. So I appreciate us waiting until next year for it to be effective. Thank you for allowing me to share. Are there any questions?
Next, we have technology.
All right, good evening. Just want to let you know, Sarah Shepke's grad program is coming to a close at the end of the month and then officially over in April with late work or anything like that. Again, teachers have been very happy with how things are going, and it's great to see such collaboration going on in the class. I forgot to mention last time, I wanted to thank Kathy and Jeremy for getting the STEM lab up and going. Everything's running very smooth. So I just wanted to put some extra time in and got everything ready to go and cleaned up the wiring and the cords that were all over the place. As far as the Badger exam, Sarah's putting together some training information for our proctors so that, again, there's every building chose a different proctor this coming testing window, so she's putting together some information for them, and she'll go ahead and train them when here within the next week or so, as we take the exam at the end of the month. As far as tech end of things for that, we're just getting the apps ready to deploy. EPI is supposed to come out with, just to help alleviate some of the bandwidth issues, so they're coming up with just a caching server, so we're waiting on that so we can offload and have it locally cache all the testing applications, so we're not bottlenecking anywhere. And then, again, the other piece of that Badger exam is just as students are moving about, just making that data accurate, so instead of just kind of monitoring if other students go to other schools, that we release them to other schools or vice versa if they're coming in, just making sure it's all accurate and ready to go. So, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Principal's report.
Good evening. A couple of quick updates. We had our second parent-teacher conferences held, and those are requested by teachers or parents if there's specific issues they want to discuss. And between that conference period and then the first conference period we had back earlier in the year, Evergreen has 100% participation, which is a credit to the teachers and their ability to communicate with the parents. So I'm grateful for that. We had our nonviolent crisis intervention refresher, and Mike Rosendich taught the majority of our staff the various techniques involved with MBCI. Kathy had mentioned earlier the formative assessment teams that got together last Wednesday, I believe it was, from Evergreen. And Shelley Wagner, Kristen Stott, and Ann Nicholas represented us and put together a presentation for the staff that will be taking place this week Wednesday, so looking forward to that. Our orchestra, under the leadership of Kristen Freimer, have been performing during lunch periods, which is kind of a neat thing. They line up over here and perform. They've also done a couple of morning announcements, playing the short numbers, so that's greatly appreciated. And then finally, Joel Beffert runs our Hoops for Heart, which is a benefit for the American Heart Association, and it culminated with a student versus staff basketball game, which was held Friday, and the students kept their winning streak alive and annihilated the staff in the basketball game. But kids have a great deal of fun with it, and the staff does as well. And this year, $4,300 was raised for the American Heart Association, and Jill's been doing this for a number of years, and we're nearing $50,000 of donation for the American Heart Institute, so that's greatly appreciated as well.
Any questions?
I'll just add that I was at the Hoops for Hearts game, and it was excellent. You guys do a great job putting that on, and the kids love it, and it's quite the spectacle.
It's loud.
It's loud, they stomp on the bleachers, and Cannon plays like it's his job. Quite impressive.
I had a lot of parent phone calls about that.
I just wanted to say a big thank you to Joanne and Barb Canales, Joanne Nelson, for preparing kids for the 6th grade solo ensemble coming up next week. And like this week, tonight, Joanne kept the students after school from 3:30 to 5 o'clock practicing with them. Barb gives up lunchtime during the course of the week so she can practice with the students. So again, it's next week Tuesday. It's here from 4 to 7 o'clock here at Evergreen. We rotate elementary schools, giving the students that opportunity. I wanted to thank first, second, and kindergarten teachers during lunchtime. They give once a month, and sometimes they get together to do iPad training for each other and give each other support as they're working with all the different things that are happening in their classroom to implement that, but just a good sharing kind of ideas, and that happens through their lunchtime. And just a recognition to the Racine County Police and also our Waterford Police Force, who gave some presentations to all of the elementary buildings in the past, last week and the week before, talking to all of our staff about safety and just some really great reminders of things we need to keep in mind as we continue that throughout our building and throughout the school year. And then last, just a big thank you to fourth grade team who took these students to the Capitol last week, because we were, and Jim and I and Chris just keeping good communication, making sure it was a good and safe trip for all of our students, which it was. But they also put plans together if someone chose not to have their student attend. So they put that extra work and time into preparing materials for any family who wanted the option of not going. So I appreciate the work they did for that. Questions?
Were there a lot of non-participants? How was the environment? Were there any
Good, it really was. And
no demonstrators doing
no,
wacky?
not at all.
Good.
And they go to the historical museum, and then the part where they enter through an area where it's a little, there wasn't anything going on. I asked the teachers, the students, and no, they had a great day. And when they were inside the Capitol and also the historical area, it was a great day. We had perfect weather too. We couldn't have asked for better.
Great.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, the field trip out, I had called the Capitol previously to see what's going on down there, and they assured us that they'd be safe. And
A
then,
week earlier, you might have problems.
right. And then Mitch called twice during the day to give us a heads up on, how lunch was going, so it's good. I'd like to thank Kristen Freimark for Music in Our Schools month. She had the 5th and 6th grade orchestra perform during announcements. It was really cool to see the kids perform. We have pictures of that on our Girl Side website if you'd like to look. And she's going to have the 4th grade orchestra perform this Friday morning, so looking forward to that. I'd like to thank Rebecca Romice and Abby House, the 3rd grade students, and the parents for an outstanding Simple Machines showcase on March 6th. It was cool to see all the different designs and ideas that the students had for the Simple Machines showcase. And the catapult was a very popular choice this year. There were plenty of little marshmallows flying around the cafeteria during that time. It was a lot of fun. Again, a successful field trip to Madison. One thing I'd like to report is that it was reported that the students, the 4th grade students, represented Trailside and Waterford very positively. So that's always good to hear when you come back from a field trip that they were well behaved and minded their manners. So speaking of 4th grade, we were nominated by Channel 12 Morning Shoutout. So this Wednesday, WISM will be coming to Trailside to film our 4th graders giving the morning shoutout on Channel 12 in the morning. So looking forward to that. So they'll let us know when that'll be aired, probably the next week or so on Channel 12, like 5:20 in the morning. So it's pretty cool. I'd like to thank Lynn Olenek, Diane Hyatt, and Rebecca Romice for working on the formative assessment committee last Wednesday with us. We worked with Woodfield and Shirley teachers. Great discussions and really had a great discussion about formative assessment, different ideas, and where we're going to go from here with that. Also, Shirley had mentioned the presentations that Racine County Sheriffs gave. We also would like to thank them for Lieutenant Brad Friend, who's been working in Waterford. He's just fantastic. He comes to the building at least once a week. He walks around, gets to know the students. I meet with him every time he comes, and he's just a great asset to have here in Waterford. So, any questions?
Thank you.
Evening. Ditto on Deputy Fred. He spends time at Fox River, and I just said to him again today, I really enjoy working with you. I like your demeanor with the kids, the way you respond to them, and the way you coach them. So once again, I appreciate what he's doing. So
Is he always going to be our?
well, it's my understanding the village is right now trying to make some decisions how they're going to proceed forward. And so right now, he's in the situation, in the spot, but possibly it could be, reallocated or something. So we just work with what we have right now, So he's gone through the building also, and we'll be running some drills coming up here pretty soon so he can see some things. So, but yeah, working out very well. A couple people that I would like to say thank you tonight. Once again, Mrs. Kulo and Mrs. Bergman we had the chorus concert last Thursday night, a packed crowd right there, and Mrs. Bergman had all the artwork set up in the halls. I don't know if you had an opportunity, if you weren't at the concert, to come and see the artwork at least that's in the halls. I'm just amazed with what Mrs. Bergman gets out of these kids. The photography, big and small, and some of the stuff they've done, and the paintings are just fabulous. Like I reminded you last time, she's going to be having an art show, and I'm hoping that everybody's going to be able to see that here at the end of the year. And Deanna's chorus concert was good. She highlighted some students that just was really nice to see them highlighted in a different way. So kudos out to them. We had the new microphone system all set up. Worked out very, very well. Even got the recording as the hornet was swimming around up there, and the kids were Deanna's up there conducting. All of a sudden we heard this noise that we typically would have heard, but now we have brand new mics for this meeting. We get all the kids in a panic up there because the hornet, Mrs. Martha's swinging in to get this hornet. So it's a very good microphone system that she bought. She thanked all of you at the meeting, at the concert for that, and it worked very, very well. So thank you much for that.
Good job killing the hornet.
Yeah, thanks. The band leadership team had a band night this past Friday night. Mrs. Nelson stayed, and they just had a fun, we've been through just a busy season with the solo ensemble and preparing and just all the concerts these kids have been doing. So it was just a kickback night. She organizes with band leadership team and the kids, and they stay till I think it's 9 o'clock at night. We just have a fantastic fun time on Friday night. So thank you to Mrs. Nelson for that. I want to say thank you once again to Mrs. Underly, Ms. Zilke, Mrs. Timms, Mrs. Lane, and Mrs. Henning. Like they all said down here, I worked with Mr. Maltoff in the morning and his teachers, and we talked about formative assessment, put some slide, PowerPoint, Google Doc ready to share with our staff, like Jim shared with what he did with Shirley in the afternoon. So thank you all to those people. Mrs. Top, she's my I can't think, career teacher, and we got done the first week with junior finance, junior achievement, took all the 7th graders up to Menominee Falls up there, and with tons and tons of parent volunteers, we couldn't do it without them. Thank you to all those parents. And all the 7th graders had an opportunity to spend their money. The biggest thing coming home when I talked to a lot of them was, I'm not getting married, Mrs. Marco, because I don't want to share my money, and I want what I want, because they found out that all of a sudden when you buy these fancy houses and cars that they think they all want, and all these fancy clothes, they are down to zero with nothing left to eat and stuff. So it was a real good awareness for them about where they're going in life. Mrs. Kulo is taking 59 students up to the high school on Wednesday. We were invited to the play at Pippin. Actually, Alex Mazurek is in it from, he's an 8th grade boy, he's in the high school play, and we took anybody that was in our musical last year on the stage, did technology, the artwork, we're a solo ensemble this year, or the chorus, and they had an opportunity, their parent had signed a permission slip, and they are excused and they're going up to the high school play. So thank you to those people, and also if they're in forensics, they could have gone. So 59 students are going up on Wednesday. And then tonight, we just had a parent meeting. That's one a little late. We have 61 students leaving out next week, Thursday, to go to Concordia. And they'll be spending Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday up there with Mrs. Rito, her husband, and 3 parent volunteers, and they'll be immersed in Spanish for the entire weekend. They can only speak Spanish. Everything is in Spanish. So thank you to Mrs. Rito for setting that up and organizing that. And that went very, very well when I just worked with the parents on that. Any questions about the middle school? All right. Thank you.
we have committee reports, personnel and finance, Dan.
Personnel and Finance, March 9th, called the meeting to order 6 o'clock. We had Lisa Castigren, Beverly Peterson, and Sarah Shepke in to discuss the summative subcommittee evaluation of the summative process versus the educator effectiveness. And the committee agreed to move to the full board for approval of sticking with educator effectiveness and ceasing the summative evaluation from here forward. We had an RFP review for the 4K wraparound program and had discussion on that. And we had the summer program stipends reviewed, and that was moved forward for that action tonight. And we had the monthly budget and check ledger review. All the checks were in, everything was fine. Monthly budget, we're ahead of ourselves and saving money this year. Discussing maintenance projects, evergreen floor replacement. After discussion, the item was moved to full board, 1 for, 1 against. Can you remove that? It says without full committee recommendation. Can you remove that on there? Should be 1 for, 1 against. And we adjourned at 7:10. Any questions?
Next, we have technology, Dan.
Technology started right after that, 7:10. Trailside connectivity was discussed, and we committee opted to go with a direct link using, would that be considered microwave?
Yeah,
I
right
think so,
away.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So a bridge network basically bouncing off the water tower, which we had done in the past, but they have much better equipment these days, and it would save roughly, about 7,000 something a year, a little more than that, from what we're paying to Time Warner to allow us to use their,
Yes.
sorry, to allow us to use their fiber. And we're waiting to see about that. That's going for approval tonight. A wireless upgrade discussion, that will be coming forward to the board tonight also. Hardware for the 6th grade was discussed, and after that discussion, it was tabled for a future meeting. To allow us Canada more time to review what's currently on our machines to see if there's any possibility of modifying the software in any manner. And miscellaneous updates, Mr. Heath is compiling data on teacher machine survey. We'll present the results and purchase recommendations to the committee in a future meeting. And I think that was it. Any discussion?
If not, moving on to policy and curriculum, Dawn.
We called the meeting to order at 7:57. We began with a presentation from our 6A ELA teachers regarding recommended materials. That's moving forward to the board this evening for a vote. We also were able to look at the survey results from our college and career interest survey. And those results will go back to a college and career team, looking at the main themes from those surveys, and will come back to us with recommendations later this spring. Then we had policy updates, which came for first reading already this evening. And then we also added our strategic plan policy that came for first reading tonight.
Any questions, additions? All right. Next, we will move to citizen input. If anybody has signed up. One person, Dan Belzer.
Can you hear me? Well, first off, I want to thank the board, and I just have a few things here that I want to go through. As we look towards having a new administration and new board leadership, I just have a few thoughts that I want to pass on to everyone to think about. First off, I have two boys who went through the K-8 system here. They're both at high school now. I've been a Lego robotics instructor and coach for the past 4 years through the rec department. I'm involved in a number of things in the community, in a number of different ways and for our youth. Just a few things here. First off, while we know our schools rank high when compared to our peers, something that keeps coming back to me is how do we rank internationally? And just something to think about. Do all our kids reach their full potential? And if not 100%, what percentage do? In thinking about that, do we allow a child to advance a year and a quarter or a year and a half, say in math, if that's where their gifts are at? Or are we only able to offer full year increments? Do you think that kids offer view supplemental material, which is often an intervention in learning? Do they view that as a reward or a punishment? How many kids, of those who do succeed and are ready to move on that full year increment, how many kids are really ready for that socially? And how many don't take that step because they're not ready? Is learning linear, or does it speed up and slow down over time? And, due to a number of things, both external and internal factors. Are we allowing kids to have individualized learning plans and leveraging the technology that could enable it? If we flip the classroom but don't allow kids to work at a pace that's appropriate for them, do they really gain the full benefit? Do the online tools that we use allow teachers, parents, and mentors to track progress in real time and encourage kids to challenge themselves? Are the tools we use free, and do they provide early alerts so teachers can spend more of their time working with the kids who really need it? Are we creating lifelong learners and making learning fun? Do we have the social outlets that promote learning, make it cool to pursue knowledge, and encourage kids to mentor others? Are there any industries you can think of that don't use technology and aren't very dependent on it? Are we preparing our kids in a way that will allow them to really understand technology and be able to contribute to it? Or are they becoming users? Which has more opportunity? Are we going to allow state and federal policy debates and other hurdles to separate our community into taking sides? Or are we going to find ways to come together and really do things for the good of our kids and our community? Have we thought about the potential of creating a STEM academy within our school district, such as that Waukesha STEM Academy has, and something within their school district? Would having such a resource be a positive experience for the kids who choose it? And would it draw additional like-minded families and strengthen our community, as well as fill our schools and our community? So with that, just a couple other quick items. As many of you know, my name was on the ballot the past couple of years for the school board, but I didn't really run for the school board. I'm here to help initiate some of the dialogue and discussion I think we need to have. And I encourage anyone, whether it's just members of the community, those who are running for the school board, if you want to have that discussion, I'm more than willing to do that. So that's it. If you would like this, you're more than welcome to it. It's up to the school board. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, we have an hour and a half chat on Saturday at my listening session. Anybody else like to make a comment?
Hello, I apologize I didn't sign in. I was waiting to hear more about the PTO policy 815. My name is Shelley Tessner. I was once the president for the Waterford PTO. And recently we have sent you a letter addressing our concerns to the school board members. But since then, we have met with the PTO presidents and the principals, and we discussed some actions regarding what we want to do in the future. We've agreed with some things, and we still haven't agreed with other things, and we're working on another solution as well amongst ourselves. So that being said, the only thing that I would ask the board to consider is with the PTO directory. It's a great way. It used to be a paper directory that the district used to produce for all the families within the district. Now it's digital, and I guess I would ask if the technology department would be so kind to put a video together and then put it on the website of how parents should actually opt in if they choose to opt in into the directory. Because one of the main purposes of the PTO is to communicate to all family members. So that's my only suggestion for that policy. Other than that, I thought it was excellent, well written, and if the board would like any more information or from us, more for PTO regarding anything, we're here tonight to discuss anything with you. Okay?
Thank you.
Any questions? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Jamie Cronick, and I'm a parent of a second grader and a kindergartner at Woodfield, and I currently serve as the Woodfield PTO president. I would first of all like to thank Mr. Yo for sharing his policy draft proposal for policy number 815. Based on recent discussions regarding our organizations, I would really hope that input from the presidents of the individual PTOs will be sought, and any action on this policy will be tabled. Thank you.
Any other citizen input?
Hi, I'm Debbie Wyko. I'm the former president of the PTO for Mr. Maltoff, actually. The reason why I got involved with the PTO to begin with was because we had a big meeting the year prior, and the executive board was basically voted out. They were going to be on a floating basis to keep that account for a couple years. As they put it, they had a lawsuit going with this lady that they needed it opened and blah, blah, blah. Well, the executive board ended up being some new people. Shelley Tessmer is not even in the executive board to begin with. The executive board disbanded when I was in the PTO. It never had meetings, it never had anything, and Tim was the president at that time. At that time, we all voted, all the presidents and us voted that we were going to divide up the money and only leave a partial amount of money in that account, just so that if, for some reason, the probation officer was able to collect any more funds from this woman, that they could do so because they said it had to go into that account. Whether that's true or not, I'm unsure of, but the PTOs have thrived on their own and been very successful. It's shameful on all their parts right now that they are stepping up and trying to disband these PTOs when they're doing so well. I personally made close to $20,000 last year for Evergreen. I know Woodfield has made a substantial amount of money, and I'm unsure about Trailside. But I think that they need to just let things go. Their kids are graduating from high school, and they obviously have nothing else to do in their time. It's ridiculous. It's time to move on and quit using excuses as to why they need to have an executive board. There's no need for an executive board. They do absolutely nothing for the schools. They do absolutely nothing. All the decisions are made within the school and with each principal. Nothing with the executive board at all. The money should be divided up as it was. There was no reason for them to reverse those funds, as is, I was just told that they were done. I would have never known that they came to you guys today had I not been at the Spanish meeting. with Miss Markle, and I asked her, how did that meeting go? And I came in here only to see them all sitting here, and I think it's shameful. I just find it shameful that they cannot move forward and let it be. Just be done with it. There's no reason why. This is the best the PTOs have done. Do any of you agree differently? Have you seen the PTOs in the schools been happier? Well, Grant, how about you? You were here when I was at PTO, and now Dawn is. Was there a lot of activities for your kids?
Yes.
Okay. How about you, Dawn?
We're very pleased with her coming to the PTO.
Okay. I don't know, do you have kids here? I don't really know you.
I have had numerous grandchildren in the school district. I also had children that grew up in the school district. PTOs go on a cycle. You have a high and you have a low. That's what's probably going to happen again.
No, because the PTO presidents currently have young children.
I agree. But
right.
then all of a sudden, and I'm talking about, because my youngest child is 33. It goes in cycles. You have big groups that come in and take care of it, and then all of a sudden, there's nobody to step up, and then you have a big
So
lull,
you
and
think
then it
that
comes back
somebody-
up again. So you do have the highs and lows.
So you
The
think-
question I have is, are each one of you going to then have a 503C plan and file with the state?
Well, technically, do you realize though that the school board really doesn't have anything to do with the PTO?
You do have to present, though, what you're going to be spending the money on and your budget currently.
I don't believe so, and I think that they
No,
can
it's
actually
fair.
go to a PTA, and then you really don't have anything to do with it, and it goes through the state.
Let's clarify that. We don't have anything to do with what a PTO does, except for expenditures in our school, in communication in our school.
And I don't want to be that way. I think this is a fantastic program, and I think the parents of the schools are very happy. I think it's 4 or 5 people that just are ruining it for the rest.
I'll say this, I think the PTOs are doing better individually now with this group of people. So I think the group of people do better at their individual schools.
That's correct.
But the PTO, I think, was better 10, 12 years ago, covering the entire school district of children. So is that good or bad? I don't know. If we want to be a unified community, it's bad. If we want individual schools that want to buy more technology for their student and don't care about a different student at another school, that's good for those individual schools. Is it good for our district? I don't know that. But I think you do a little disservice, though, by slighting the people that have given nothing but their time and effort to the school district to make the PTO what it was to get to the point where you would want to be in the PTO and help out.
Well, I can tell you that I found one lady that changed the address of an account, and had I not received that mail in my PTO thing, it would have never been brought to our attention.
I know, and there's been things both sides, both ways, but like I said,
No, there hasn't. We give copies of our bank accounts to the principal,
you should not give copies of bank accounts to a principal.
but that he gives to we were supposed to send them to the executive board, and that stopped.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You working with Chris should have nothing to do with the bank accounts. And Chris shouldn't talk about bank accounts to an executive board.
No,
The
he
PTO
doesn't talk to him about it. You're
I know, but
misunderstanding.
This is the issue though, and I'll agree with Doug 100%. It will come and go. It has come and gone.
Mhm.
And it always comes and goes. It's not only PTOs, it's Girl Scouts, it's Cub Scouts. Every group has very strong people, and eventually they move along and it becomes very weak and things get weird. But that's why this board has been discussing the need for a policy of how the board in the school works with the PTO. Because to that point, it was all verbal. But you can't have verbal anymore because there won't be half the people in this room won't be here in a few months, right? So who's going to remember anything? So that's where policy has been needed.
And that's why there was a vote taken, and that's why we went individual, and that's why it was supposed to be disbanded.
So that's all fine and dandy. You guys can do whatever you want. If you want to take all the money and have a gala event, spend it however you want.
But they
The
did
board has
divide
nothing
it.
to do with it.
It was divided, and then one of the members stepped back in and
No, I
reversed it.
understand all that. What I'm saying, this is, all our thing we're working with tonight is how the school board and the PTO interact and what we require of PTO. Other than that, PTO can spend money however they want to.
Listen, I'm out of the PTO, my child's at Fox River right now, and I always told Ms. Marco, if she ever needs me to help her with anything, I would help her do anything that needs to be
And
done.
you're a great parent. You're one, there's not that many will. You're a great parent. Somebody will step up and say, I'm offering help, and Ms. Markle is not shy. She'll take all the help she can get from any good parents, any day of the week.
I mean, I'll probably come back to, Mr. Maltov, I miss it that much, but no. But the thing of it is that when I heard that, it just broke my heart, because every school, truthfully, wants their own building PTO, and the parents want to work for their own school to buy their teachers or their students or whatever their own school things. We had bake sale, we bought the art teacher iPads. We did different things, and that's wonderful.
And that's all great. Nobody's
Yeah.
even discussing that right now.
Okay, but that's what they're here for.
They may be, but it was actually already a committee meeting once for the discussions coming forward tonight for approval on it, and there'll be more discussion on it.
First reading.
Oh, first reading, sorry. So there'll be more discussion. I mean, so at this point here, there's nothing being voted on tonight.
Well, I just want you to know, I think that you will lose probably a lot of people in the PTOs if you go ahead and try to do a District 1 again. And I find that
There's nobody here discussing a district-only PTO.
Okay, I just want you to realize that.
Yeah,
And
it's not even in the policy that's been brought forward.
Okay,
It's individual PTOs with a district oversight.
and they don't want that either, because,
That's fine, but if 3 or 4 PTOs can't get together and vote 2 people to have district oversight,
we had that.
yeah,
We
that's fine.
had that, and then it was voted to disband it when Tim was in charge.
We heard, okay.
Disband and divide the money.
Yep.
Keep the count open, and it was supposed to be done. That was it. And if you need to call him in here for that, we can.
We aren't going to get into the daily operations of the PTO. That's not the board's job. It's the PTO to
But
run.
Mr. Yoke, I want you to realize that was already voted. I was at that meeting, and there was the rest of the PTO presidents at that meeting that voted to disband it, divide the money, leave the account open in case there was funds coming in from that lady. That was the decision. And then Tim was going to walk away.
All right, well, we've discussed that, and we were over time on it, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? That is limited to 5 minutes, which I haven't been watching, so.
Hi, I'm Sharon Webb. I was part of the executive board that WFO was talking about, and I'm here to tell you we're not asking for PTO to become one unit again. So I'm not really sure what she's talking about. We have came here to support Fox River, and we want to support Fox River in any way we can. There's 4 moms here that have kids, as she said, that are grown seniors in high school, and I'm one of those moms who are willing to help at Fox River. And so I'm not really sure what Debbie's talking about. We're fine with how the PTOs are going. They're doing well. We did well as a group. They're now doing well as separate PTOs. But we want to make sure Fox River doesn't fall to the wayside because they don't have a lot of support. They have parents that are willing to step up, but I just want to make sure that it's very clear we are not here to try and disband the separate PTOs. That's not our intention whatsoever. We just want to make sure that Fox River has support, and we are here to do that. So that's really all I have to say. I'm not sure what Debbie is talking about because there's nobody here trying to disband anything else.
Thank you very much for your input. Any other citizen input? If not, then we will move to action items.
About the policy, 8:15. I wonder if at this time I should put it back to committee, just in that, depending on the vote, the second bullet of an executive board reforms may not be appropriate. So if you could bring it back to committee in April.
I'd agree with that, especially if nothing else to clarify, because I guess the way I read it is that that executive board will be comprised of the existing people in the current PTO, not talking about separate individuals coming in and being an executive committee to them. It'll be comprised of the people who are in the PTO. But obviously there's a lot of concerns about this, so I want to make sure that we're taking the time to address everybody's questions and problems or anything they might see with it.
that would come back to policy and curriculum on April 13th.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think we'll start the committee meetings at 6:30 that night, if that's okay with you, Chris.
Oh, okay.
Just give people a little extra time, it is nice out, do a couple things before they start. Okay, moving on to action items. Take action to approve policy updates, 431, 453.2, 453.3, 453.4, and the guidelines in 522.4, 524, 525, and 664. Moved by Dan. Is there a second at all?
I'll second.
Second by Don. Any discussion?
This is not a PTO discussion or guideline or policy anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, just want to get that clarified.
Policy 664 though, when I was reading it over, I know it's the second reading, but we have a difference on page 1. The Waterford graded school district shall maintain a fund balance of at least 25%. And on page 2, last paragraph, we have the district shall strive to maintain an unassigned year-end fund balance in the general fund. This is equivalent to at least 35%. I was wondering if we should also kick this one back to committee to have some discussion regarding that. So I wonder about amending the motion to all policies except 664.
Well, what was supposed to be on this policy was a change to add a not to exceed number.
Of 50%.
Yeah, so I don't know whether there must have been a discrepancy.
So we could kick it.
All along. It doesn't matter one way or the other. I'm just looking to add a not to exceed fund balance numbers, so it doesn't get out of control at some point in the future.
So if we could bring this back to committee, have a conversation.
Or should we just change it?
I'd
Second
rather
page
take
from
it to
25.
committee.
If we missed that, let's discuss.
So,
Would you like to amend your motion then? For all the policies except this one, 664?
Yeah, well, that's fine. I'll amend my motion to strike 664.
Don? Okay,
Second.
Susan? Okay. Any more discussion on the motion, on the floor? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So 664, go back to for April. Next, take action to discontinue summative evaluation document for teacher evaluation.
so move.
Second.
Moved by Don, seconded by Dan. Any discussion?
Yeah, so I think the ladies that did this did a real good job in reviewing it and discussing it. And it's obvious it was originally started to be a positive and a benefit to teachers in salary increase as far as merit pay. In hindsight, it didn't work out as well as we anticipated, but we were ahead of the curve. There was no teacher-educator effectiveness. We were out there when nobody else had any kind of review process online. So I think that the educator effectiveness would be fine. The only issue I have, and I brought this up twice on committee and at the last meeting in committee when they redid this. The only issue I have is educator effectiveness is strive to document wording objectives, the outcome, and the documentation process of the outcome. There's nothing in educator effectiveness that takes into account the actual outcome of students testing and or the school. You could have a failing school and have everybody considered the high quality educator effectiveness teachers. So I think that you still need something in something in between that would help you at least review teachers in addition to educator effectiveness. Now what that is, I'm not certain. I'm sure educator effectiveness will morph in the future. So this is a good start with educator effectiveness, but I would say to the school board, keep your eye on it. You may need to modify it slightly and clean things up. So.
Yeah, could you clarify for us there, that takes into students' growth?
There are components that take in student achievement portions, but that's the SLO part, and those are written by the teachers themselves. So they are different for different teachers, depending on what they're focusing on. But I do believe in the artifact area, there are pieces that are more alike for student achievement that teachers have to keep that even some of them that color code according to criteria as far as if students are growing at the proper rate that they should. So that might be something we could just even tighten a little bit more, and then that would fit that criteria.
Kathy, what's the piece that's coming in next year based on your?
Well, you know, the state talks about that they're going to have the
Value added?
the value-added piece, but I don't know that we can count on that. At one time, they said it would be in next year, but it's really 2 years out, so, and how things are coming out lately from the state, they aren't behind in anything, so.
Yeah, I mean, originally the state had it, 50% of educator effectiveness grading of a teacher was the outcome of the school district. And that was put to the wayside when Milwaukee objected to it, because you would never have effective educators if you're going to put 50% and everybody's failing in Milwaukee school. When you have a 50% graduation rate, how can you have a highly qualified educator in that venue? The problem is Milwaukee does have highly qualified educators, a lot of them, and that would have skewed their numbers significantly, and I don't think that's fair to those educators. But somewhere along the line, somebody needs to come up with a proportionality stating that true outcome of testing has to have some significant impact on the educator effectiveness numbers. And right now, there is nothing in the system that does that. I mean, you can do your SLOs, you can go through all that. Some people can calibrate higher or lower. If you calibrate wrong, you can recalibrate again. There's a lot of movement all over this, and I don't think it's as tight as our summative evaluation process was. But then again, that might not be bad right now for our district. So let's start with educator effectiveness. We have very highly qualified administrators and educators. Let's find a happy medium that will show that, and the rest of the world already knows it based on our great test scores in place.
And with all of the testing, there's also so many different reports that can be run as to whether or not people are using it, using programs to fidelity, and are the students growing, and you know, so I think that we can definitely work on that, and it can be a part of the artifacts of educator effectiveness.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That'll be a 5-0 nay. Take action to approve purchase of grades 6 through 8 ELA resources not to exceed $30,000.
I just want to make one clarification. At the time that we had the committee meeting, I didn't have the final bid in on that. The bid did come in at $34,000 for the collections, and so we're working with the rep, because we had budgeted and you had approved $150,000 for both ELA materials, and so the company was willing to reduce the price of the journeys, so that we could get what we needed for the collections. So even though it's really $34,000, they took some cost off of the journey, so it would still fit within what you had originally approved at the beginning, closer in the beginning of the year for $150,000.
How will they ever keep their doors open with that little bit of profit money? I'm just kidding. Yeah, so
Don't go there.
discussion. So move.
Moved by Dan,
Second.
second by Tom. Any discussion on the motion?
Can we just have clarification?
Clarification on motions for 34.
Thank you.
Even though paperwork ends up saying 30 because he's moving the figures around. Any other discussion on the motion?
The only thing I'd love to see, and I know we brought this up in technology, grounds, it would be great to also come up with a document for our curriculum purchases like this, so that we can see where we are, where we're heading, and when we're talking about our long-term planning. And I know it's come up a number of times since I've been on the board. Well, how old is the stuff we have now?
8 years old, but originally there was a rollover, it was supposed to be every 6 years.
Right, and I know that can vary for the different, schools and what we're talking about, but to have something in place to say, okay, we need to look at new materials for 8th grade in 2019, or kind of a bit of a roadmap. I think it would be very helpful in the decision-making process, and also just when we're discussing these things, to kind of know where we're at, know where we were, know where we're going.
Since we talked about that last time, the principals and I are working on that, and Brian buying our materials at different stages, but it's gonna take a little while for us to work out what are the needed pieces that we
Sure,
need.
yeah, totally
But it's definitely in the
understandable
works.
that we're working on it is great.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Be a 5-0 nay. Next, take action to approve 2 technology pieces, trailside conductivity and district wireless system upgrade. You want to do them together or separately?
Together is fine, I just think. Committee came forward with two in favors anyway, so I'll, go ahead and motion for that.
So moved.
Second by Don? Or first by Don? Thought Dan was second.
Dawn's fine, I'll second it.
So are we going Dan or Dawn?
Dawn, Dan.
Don, Dan, the 2 Ds. Any discussion on the motion?
So this should save us actually quite a bit of money on our trailside connectivity. I was not in favor of extending TDS's contract, what was it now, 5 years ago, 6 years ago now?
5 years ago.
5 years, so in excess of $40,000 wasted over that period of time. Can't really say wasted, I mean, use the connectivity to the utmost, I don't know. So now we own our own, or will own our own equipment, and bandwidth should be as good as we were getting from TDS. We may have an occasional blip or a power down cycle, but then again, same thing. We may have an occasional blip on the data or the equipment working on the fiber, so we never know.
And the thought process with this, if we move now and do this quickly, our current contract doesn't end with TDS until December. So that'll give us quite a bit of time to test this out. If we determine, you know what, it's going to be a disaster, we can't rely on this, then obviously we have to stick with TDS or look at another option. But if it does work, that means once it's in place, that's what it is, and we won't have to pay anybody anything. I'm not going, should work well, which would be great.
Have we contacted the village to make sure we can still put stuff on our water tower?
We have, again, we've signed the lease, so for a whole dollar, so we're good to go.
That was a good deal.
When do you think you'll have the system up and operation?
As I emailed you guys, once we put in the deal, I mean, we should be here within 3 weeks. They can come out and start getting everything installed and tested.
They say anything about bad weather or lightning strikes or what they do to prevent it? Try to.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have wireless, you could have that as an interference, but again, the nice part is we have the buffer up wired from TDS right now, so that'll definitely be part of our testing process.
And that's something we may want to look at if it does work, and we are concerned about, some sort of act of God. We may want to look at purchasing another device that we can have on hand, and we can swap it out quickly, or find out what type of, service they offer once everything's in place to come on out and swap it out if there is some natural disaster.
That was basically my concern.
Sure.
With where I work with our generators, we have so many cell sites, you see them go down quite a bit. The advantage is you have other cell sites that just pick up the pace. But here, we don't have anything else to pick up the pace, so that's why. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Be 5-0 nay. Next, take action to approve summer intervention program for staff. Not to exceed, I believe it's $8,000. Moved by Dawn,
Second.
second by Dan. Any discussion on this?
This is a minimal amount of expenditure for summertime intervention for low-performing students, to keep them up to date and on target throughout the summer, so we don't lose anything in their learning skills.
Any other discussion?
I would just say, those teachers involved, if they can make personal phone calls home multiple times, I know a lot of these kids, they need that help, and it takes convincing. So, the ones there use it, that's good for you.
Yes, and I already have some interested staff members, so that's wonderful.
All in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that'll be 5-0. Next, take action to approve Evergreen School Gymnasium floor replacement not to exceed $60,000.
So moved.
Second by Tom. Discussion.
Well, I read Mr. Bedford's letter, and I'm not discounting the fact that he believes the floor to be slippery. However, that floor has the same surface as a wooden floor covered with, what do you use now these days, polyurethane. So the issue is the whole high school is wooden floors with polyurethane. They're not slippery. The only time we ever ran into this issue of a floor being called slippery was when we put in 2 rubberized surfaces at the 2 new elementary schools. This floor has been in use for 20 years. In fact, I don't know, Cannon, did you slip on the way into this room today? I didn't slip on the way into this room. This is the same surface and tile as used in the elementary gym. So, although, yes, it may not be the same surface as a rubberized surface, it has lasted 20 years, it's in great shape, there's nothing wrong with it, and it's been working well. Not only that, it works much better if you're doing bowling and if you're doing roller skating. So I see no purpose in spending $60,000 when we are not even capable of offering a cost of living increase to the teaching staff. But spending $60,000 on a rubberized gym floor makes no sense at this point.
Any other discussion?
I will add, not only did I bear witness to Cannon's basketball moves at the Hoops for Hearts game, I do have to agree with Mr. Bedford that that floor was a disaster. Kids were sliding everywhere, and I know your concerns, and I agree with them, but speaking to what everybody's saying about the floor, it is true. Watching the kids, watching the adults, trying to stop, they basically slide across the floor. I thought a number of them were going to go down at any moment. So it definitely is different. It's not like walking in here into a meeting and sitting down. It's when they're actively using it, it is definitely different than either Woodfield or Trailside. I guess my concern with it is if those schools do have gymnasiums that are being used there as intended for sports and gym class and everything that they're supposed to be getting out of them, but we're having to limit what we're doing at Evergreen because the equipment isn't suitable. I guess that is a concern for me, and not letting these kids get the same experience as those kids, I don't think it's fair.
Well, I guess my question would be, maybe Jim knows, what happens when you do roller skating on the rubberized surface over there, or don't you do it in that gym?
Yeah, you do it.
Okay.
I never talked about it, I don't know.
Mrs. Martin,
Yes.
I'll be able to help us a little more then.
There's not an issue with roller skating on the rubberized floor.
Just not gonna go as hard and fast.
Oh, well, I think it can still go fast. I think they still go fast. If anything, I think we have to slow them down. So I don't think the rollerblading has affected the floor at Fox River. And
Is there tracks in the floor for the bleachers?
there are places for the bleachers. There's not tracks for them, but the bleachers come out, and there has been no wear until we replaced one spot when we redid the floor, but it doesn't affect the, no, I'm not sure the bleachers he has. The bleachers we have are just fine with the floor that we have over at Fox
Yeah, I
River.
don't think they're about the same.
It doesn't tear or rip or anything like that. No. So, I mean, I recognize what you're saying, Dan, but I do know that when we come over to use the Evergreen gym for basketball, if our gym is, or volleyball practice, it is very, very difficult for the middle school kids it seems to absorb a lot more of the dirt on the bottom of your shoes, also the floor, and I think that's part of the problem with it's slippery. For some reason, the rubberized doesn't seem to absorb all of that, and it helps with the peak of not so slippery that way. But tile does always, I don't know, just something with the shoes, it makes it slippier. I know that in rec, the men, you know, it used to be difficult for them to play over here too because of the slipperiness of the tile. Tile serves its purpose. You know, I think if you have funds or whatever, it would be beneficial to make sure that, you know, we could put the rubberized floor in over here. But I'm respectful where you are with tile also. So, if I had my way, you'd be putting wood in everywhere. But,
I guess also part of the conversation is that we did budget, or the administration budgeted for, now granted for the other school, in looking at replacing that, but there was money budgeted for replacing that gymnasium floor. So given that, does it make sense at this time to look into it?
Any other discussion?
I just wanted to add that I think, a gym floor that's used constantly throughout the day, it's also used by the middle school after school, correct?
yeah, on nights when we can't get into our gym, we come over here, yes. Mhm.
So it's used, it's an important place. I mean, it's been an issue. We put that floor in other schools now for a reason, so.
Any other comments? Call for the question, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Oh, would that be a name?
That would be a nay. 4-1, Lene. Alrighty. Next, take action to approve 4K wraparound care being offered at private sites and any relevant changes to the school transportation plan the board determines.
Also move.
Second.
Moved by Don, seconded by Tom. Any discussion on this?
I just wanted to comment that, I hope that this moves forward, and I'm looking forward to partnering with the private sites, by the wraparound care. I think that is a great way to start a partnership with the community.
I agree.
I would agree with Don 100%. I mean, I don't think the school offering a half-day wraparound is the way we should be going to compete with local businesses that's their livelihood. We don't want to look to put the local daycares out of business so that we have no daycares. I think that we'd be better off having 4K and local daycares.
And I'd agree. I don't think that's anything we intended moving into this. I think the goal and what we voted on was to partner with the off-site locations. And while we weren't specifically talking about wraparound care at the time, I think, to me, it means the same thing.
Exactly. All right, any other comments? All in favor?
Let me just ask this
Yes.
question. The way it's worded, it does not say that we will not offer daycare here. It says we are approved offering it outside. I would like to amend it to say that we will not offer in-school 4K wraparound at this point. That's a very clear message that we are not going to do this. And the main purpose for that amendment would be that we understand that Evergreen needs to come up with a solution, and I think the busing is the way to take care of that solution.
Which, before you got here, we talked about that, and I'm going to be saying about talking to the bus company on that.
So that's the amendment I would like to add. It will not have in-school wraparound 4K at this point.
So, read it back how you want it.
To amend the item which is written down for the take action, I would have to amend it to include the statement that says we will not have on-site 4K wraparound care in the schools. It sounds like it would be an unnecessary statement, but since there's nothing in there saying that we are not opposing it, this is saying that we are opposing it. So this one pushes it to the outside.
Are you okay with that, Don, since you made the motion? Tom?
Yes, you're certain with it being just for the 4K piece, not the way it's written, you're saying it for any.
No,
Except for
take-
4K.
no, I'm just
Right,
saying,
to clarify
if you
that.
say no 4K wraparound
On
on
site.
site, what about the WASP servicing 4K students then?
That's what I'm saying. No WASP, no Evergreen being a extra one. I don't see the purpose in, because you go down the WASP road, all of a sudden you are again trying to push it into the school. Eventually it'll morph into the school. I don't want to see it morph into the school.
So the WASP may not
I don't
offer
have a problem with
4K
WASP with
services.
5K with a few hours here or a few hours there.
That's not what he's saying. What he's saying is wraparound services.
So 4K wraparound. The issue with WASP is,
That's not wraparound is when you're not.
yeah, if it were a WASP activity, you would have a half-day use of one of our facilities in the school for wraparound care, which is why I'm saying, I don't want to see 4K wraparound in the school. With our busing capability, we should be allowed to push it to the outside providers and help them out with the busing, getting the students to the facility if somebody needs 4K wraparound. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It's just a clarification on wraparound and how we use it. We used it differently over here.
I don't do right now 5 cases of wraparound, although it is, but in terms of what we're talking here, this is a half day. But it could be more than that, it could be before and then after it happened. And I view that as a much longer extended period of time versus 5 days.
So would we feel comfortable saying 4-day, half-day wraparound or something so that we don't get into a...
Just as a 4 day wraparound.
Any more discussion on it?
Does that make sense, though?
Anything done? All in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Get 5-0 on it. Next, take action to accept a teacher resignation at the conclusion of the 2014-15 school year.
Okay. You're gonna serve in a second. You're gonna do them separate? Also move.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
That's a 5-0. Next, we have support staff, a crossing guard that is resigning immediately after taking a full-time job.
Also move.
Moved by Dawn,
Second.
second by Grant. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Next item, take action to approve the hiring of a crossing guard.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Tom, seconded by Dan. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Next, the board will entertain a motion to convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.85 sub 1, B, C, E, and F to discuss employment, performance, compensation,